In the small town of Great Falls, Montana, tragedy befell the esteemed Conrad family on April 4, 1909. 3-year-old Arthur Gael Conrad succumbed to spinal meningitis, leaving the family devastated. The young boy was laid to rest in Highland Cemetery, but little did they know that this was only the beginning of a harrowing ordeal. 7 months later, on November 8, 1909, James Salmon, the sexton of the Highland Cemetery, made a shocking discovery. Baby Conrad's grave had been disturbed, and his body was missing. Strangely, the boy's casket was placed conspicuously at the cemetery entrance, as if the perpetrators wanted their crime to be uncovered. The Conrad family, well-to-do and influential in several Montana cities, was plunged into despair once more. Desperate to retrieve his son's body, Conrad cooperated closely with law enforcement. He began receiving letters from the grave robbers, taunting him with their crime. In one unexpected turn of events, Conrad received a letter from a local woman named Alice Locker, who claimed to have knowledge of his son's whereabouts through her tarot card readings. Intrigued, Conrad visited Alice's room above a grocery store for a private reading. During these sessions, Alice astounded Conrad by revealing details about the case that had never been made public. Moreover, she accurately predicted that the body snatchers would contact him, demanding a large sum of money. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, Conrad promptly reported the information to the police. Alice Locker and her partner, Fred Locker, were arrested and taken into custody. However, they were ultimately found not guilty of being accessories to the grave robbing. Instead, they were charged with unlawful cohabitation since they had been living together without being legally married. Alice served 4 months in jail, while Fred served 6 months and both paid fines. It was suspected, though never proven, that Alice had learned details of the case through her brother, a police officer in the area. Meanwhile, Conrad continued to receive letters from someone named W.C. Hastings, who offered to return the body upon payment of $1,500. The letters instructed Conrad to place a personal ad in the Great Falls Tribune, initialing it H.C., to indicate his willingness to negotiate. Following the instructions, Conrad promptly placed an ad addressing W.C. Hastings, expressing his eagerness to engage in the proposed transaction and signing it as instructed. In response, Conrad received a letter from Hastings directing him to drive a small horse-drawn buggy to a specific location outside of Great Falls. He was to bring along another person, exit the vehicle, and leave a sack filled with $1,500 along with all the correspondence he had received from Hastings. Once he saw a light, Conrad was to drive away, and his son's body would be returned to Highland Cemetery. Knowing the danger involved, Conrad sought the advice and assistance of his friends. Former Sheriff Joe Hamilton agreed to ride in the buggy with him. They devised a plan to replace the money with a sack filled with iron washers, ensuring the safety of all involved. Additionally, groups of officers were stationed at strategic points, prepared to intervene if necessary. However, last-minute changes disrupted their carefully laid plans. Arnold Conrad, Harfield's brother, ended up riding in the buggy instead of former Sheriff Hamilton, who opted to go on horseback to the designated spot. As the Conrad brothers embarked on their journey, confusion set in. They dropped the sack of washers at the wrong location but left a handkerchief at the correct spot, hoping the blackmailers would mistake it for a bag of coins. Eventually, as they made their way back to town, the Conrad brothers spotted a man in the dark near where they had left the handkerchief. With the grave robber in sight, Arnold armed himself with 2 pistols, while Harfield held a shotgun. Shots rang out in the night as they fired upon the suspected grave robber. Unbeknownst to them, tragedy unfolded. Upon their return to the spot where they had dropped the bag of washers, Sheriff Hamilton was nowhere to be found. Dread filled their hearts as they raced back to the waiting group near the city's edge. It was then that their worst fears were confirmed. Sheriff Hamilton had been shot through the abdomen and lay dead. Overwhelmed with grief and shock, the Conrad brothers were on the verge of losing their sanity. In the aftermath of the incident, either Conrad brother was charged with murder. The coroner's investigation could not definitively determine which brother fired the fatal shot that claimed Sheriff Hamilton's life. The tragic events had taken an unimaginable toll, leaving the Conrad family shattered. Regrettably, despite their relentless efforts, the body of young Arthur Gael Conrad was never recovered. The mystery surrounding his disappearance remained unsolved, forever haunting the Conrad family and the community of Great Falls, Montana. Please like the video and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily ghost stories. You can find our Southern Ghost Stories books over at Amazon as well as Barnes & Noble.